I'm Penelope Morrow with Nebraska Public Media. We're pleased to support Lincoln Symphony Orchestra with these pre-concert chats. You can even hear some LSO concerts all across the state on our series Nebraska Concerts, which airs at 11 a.m. Central on Fridays, hosted by Laura Black on our statewide network. For this pre-concert chat on LSO's final concert of the season, I'm joined by music director Ed Polachek, concert master Anton Miller, and composer in residence Elena Ruhr. Since you could either be enjoying this chat imminently prior to the concert, or a little bit ahead of time, I'll note that this final concert of the season, Inspiration and Courage, is Saturday, May 2nd at 7:30 p.m. Now, let's get to chatting about some great music. Ed, Anton, Elena, it's wonderful to see you. How's it going?
Great to be here.
Great.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going pretty all right. Let's open with some discussion of what's on the tin. Talk about, if you'd like, inspiration and courage. What about the title? What about the theme of the concert overall? How do pieces fit together?
Well, I'm just going to jump right in and just say, if you have Elena Ruhr, the music of Elena Ruhr, and the music of Ludwig van Beethoven on the same program, that says it all. It is unbelievably inspirational. And it's a little bit bittersweet because it's the final concert, not only of our season, but of our appointed composer in residence, Elena Ruhr, after her 3-year term as our composer in residence.
It's been a fabulous 3 years. It's been so great.
And it's not going to be...
We're so lucky.
Yeah, right. We all are. And it's not going to be the end of our relationship at all. It's only the beginning of our relationship with Elena.
It's been a fabulous run. I've really enjoyed it so much.
Great.
On the subject of your run, the first of your pieces that they'll be performing, the Broadway Boogie Woogie, if I'm not mistaken, came out around the time that you'd have been starting your residency with LSO. How do you feel you've grown as an artist in those intervening 3 years?
Oh, what an interesting question. I think writing for an orchestra specifically, that and the musicians really makes a difference in how you work. So for instance, the first piece that LSO did was a piece that I didn't write specifically for LSO on Quiet Earth. Then once I knew the musicians and knew everybody, I wrote Tightrope, which was specific for LSO. And then now it's even more specific because it's for Anton and the LSO, and I can't imagine anybody else playing this violin concerto than Anton, because it's called Three Pieces for Anton. So I think that relationship that you develop with musicians and collaborators is deeply important to a composer.
I just want to say, because we're talking about it, and I was going to wait a little bit to talk about this, but like Ed said, let's just jump in. It's been amazing. So just sort of to put it in perspective, I love to practice. Like, I'm one of those musicians that actually loves to practice, and my friends are all like, why do you want to practice so much? But I love playing the violin. So I love practicing, and I love playing concertos. And I've played pretty much all of the concertos that you would ever hear, all the fabulous concertos. And I'm here to tell you that my favorite concerto to practice of all time is this concerto, Elena's concerto. It's so much fun. And I realized that it's because she wrote it for me, that she figured out. And the scary thing is that she must know me so well. She knows me better than I thought she did, because she found all the stuff that I like to do, and she put it in the concerto. So I'm playing stuff, I'm like, ooh, she knew that I would like this. Oh, this is good. So it's totally, like, it's not just like that she wrote a concerto for me. It's that it's like really like is my voice, and I feel like she really understands what I care about and what I want to say. So it's extraordinary, like, to actually get to practice something like that. I mean, we haven't played it yet, and I can't wait for that. But just the process of practicing it, I find myself, I'm supposed to be practicing some other things, and I'm not practicing those things because I'm practicing Elena's piece, because it's just so great. And I know I'm biased because it was written for me and because it has all stuff that's great for me to play. But I do think it's an extraordinary piece. Like, I think it's one of the best pieces I've ever played. And I'm saying that, like, I honestly, like, after having played lots and lots and lots of concertos, I think it's like my favorite.
Wow. Thank you.
I have to ditto all of that and add that it's one of the most uh, when you look at new pieces of music and you don't know quite where the journey is going to take you when you first start out on it. I just had a copy of the score on my computer, and I started going, "Oh my God, this is phenomenal!" And I remember Elena talking to me. I think it was last season about certain instrumentation, orchestration in the second movement, and I didn't know much about what it was going to be. And then I heard this second movement that just, I don't know, it drove me into this mood of melancholy and remembrance and beautiful memories, and just it tugs at your uh, uh, heartstrings in a way. It really does. And that melody that just keeps on appearing all over the place. It not just in the violin, but in the winds, in the strings, in the lower strings. It's almost like a chaconne or a passacaille. It's just phenomenal. And the outer movements they're just partly fireworks and partly hair raising. I mean, the technical virtuosity that's required. I can't imagine anybody else playing this violin concerto. And unfortunately, Elena, that might be of this concerto's existence, because I'm not sure that anybody else can play it except Anton. Anton has, as everybody knows, has been our concertmaster with Lincoln's Symphony Orchestra for decades now. And she figured out exactly how to make that armor fit exactly on Anton and what he can do. And it allows then the orchestra to just kind of channel into what he's doing and what you have written. I can't wait to start rehearsals on this piece. It's going to be
well.
fun.
So that's why I said it's a little bit scary, because I think most people think I'm kind of just I'm a little bit crazy, but not too crazy. And this piece goes all over the place, and that's actually what I'm like. Like, I'm totally like that. So the first movement, like you said, it's like fireworks. It's going crazy, and then the middle movement is so beautiful and just so heartfelt, and then the last movement is just like, again, just going nuts. It really is my personality.
Well, we have a story about that last movement, which I don't know if I should tell.
Yeah, I think you should tell it.
All right, so we were talking about this, Anton and I. We were in Iceland and in Reykjavik, and or outside of Reykjavik, and you were on call waiting, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be writing you a concerto. What should I do? What do you like? What pieces do you play? We were just sort of chatting about it, and you were just waiting for a phone call from a bank or something. And you had this call waiting music, and it was really cheesy. And you said, you should write something like this for me. And I said, you don't know, but I'm really going to do that.
And she did.
So it's very much, the last movement is it. We don't have enough humor sometimes in modern music, and it's supposed to be really funny and tongue in cheek, and a little making fun of Muzak. Right, I remember the old word Muzak, so it makes fun of it, but not in the way that it's stupid. I don't think. I think that
No.
it's a sophisticated play with something a little bit, 1960s jazz sort of playful jazz kind of thing.
Being overly modest, Elena, because it's brilliant.
It really is. It really is. It's so exciting.
Right. And the way, it's that theme, it's like a football. It just keeps on being thrown around from section to section, from that, and Anton constantly interrupting and saying, nope, it's mine. And I just love it. It's absolutely. And I understand that was the movement that you actually wrote first. I think you mentioned once before.
I did. Yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant. And I have to say, actually, we've dedicated the whole first half to your music, Elena, because although we're not doing the whole suite that you had written called Broadway Boogie Woogie, we took that first movement as a kind of overture. And there again, people are going to be set up in a certain sense for the concerto, because it has that rhythmic stuff, that drive and that fun, and it keeps on pulling the rug out from underneath your feet. I just love it, and that is indeed between the kind of the brilliance of how you can mold rhythm and themes and all that with humor, and also with, you know, very, very serious. Now the Broadway boogie, that first movement is not so much that, but the concerto certainly is how you can incorporate a really very serious aspect of the personality of music, of feeling, of emotion, along with all this fun that gets thrown around. It's just brilliant, brilliant writing. I love it.
Can I also say I will always need to do an interview. I always have to talk about what we say with Elena's music as musicians playing it, that we get ruored. And what it means is that there are these moments where it seems like it's really simple and straightforward, and actually it's incredibly complex in a wonderful, interesting way. And I think the audience will pick up on those things. But it's really about like kind of finding something that seems like it makes total sense, but then it's off in a certain way that makes it so interesting to play and so interesting to listen to. So all of Elena's music, everything I've ever played has that aspect to it, and the concerto has it all over the place. I think it's amazing. Just rhythmically, there are things that are going on that just are so unexpected. But then once you hear it, it makes sense, and somehow it fits in, and it seems simple, but it's incredibly complex. And so the writing is really deep. Like it has a lot in there. So even though it seems simple and comes across as being almost like it was easy to write, I know it's not, because it's got all these things in it that you find and different patterns that are just really intricate.
I'd have to add to that it always, Elena, your music somehow reminded me of the way Bach structured his music, which was this kind of natural way of writing counterpoint so incredibly, and you can analyze or listen on so many different levels, and yet it is so accessible. Right. It doesn't matter which level that you listen to it. It's great music. You know, that's the genius. And one of the things that I was always impressed with your music, Elena, is that you found your own language, which is not something that many composers can do nowadays. You know, you hear the music of Britain, that can be no one but Benjamin Britten. You hear the music of Prokofiev, that can be no one but Prokofiev. And you hear the music of Elena Ruhr, and that can be no one but Elena Ruhr. It's brilliant. I love it. We're blessed.
You guys are making my head big. I love it. It's great. Thank you. Thank you a lot. Thanks.
I do want to ask another question about the Broadway Boogie Woogie, because I think that the process to get to that music is so fascinating, in that it was obviously the original painting, the Broadway Boogie Woogie, is based off of jazz music, is based off of music. So it goes in layers: music, painting, back to your music. Do you feel like you had a similar kind of process, like ingesting the inspiration material with this piece as you did with ingesting conversations with Anton for writing the violin concerto? Or do you feel like those processes were very different?
You mean with Broadway Boogie Woogie, was the process similar?
Yeah.
You know, I really like that painting, Broadway Boogie Woogie, and all the works of Mondrian, those you know, the blocks of color, and there's a lot that's extremely musical about it. If you think about you know, there's 3 reds and there's 2 blacks and there's 5 blues or whatever, you know what I mean? And they kind of work in these non-symmetrical but still very pleasing ways. Those are things that I think about a lot when I'm working, which I think that, you know, when you're talking about my music being accessible, that's really important to me. But the idea that it's a little quirky because it's put together in some kind of unusual way, that the Mondrian speaks to me in that kind of way. So the conversation was less personal, obviously, because I don't know Mondrian, of course, but you know, there is this sort of sense of responding to something, and you know, I know Anton really well, so you know, the 3 pieces are sort of different aspects. You know, a person isn't just all hijinks, and a person isn't just sad, and a person isn't just sort of gloriously happy, but you know, you can be all those things. And so I wanted to sort of capture different aspects of the depth of Anton's personality.
As I said, totally scary. Because you got it. You totally got it.
Moving to Anton then, a question direct for you. You've performed all over the nation, all over the world. You've led ensembles all over the nation, all over the world. What inspires you to work here in the Plains? What makes this the place that you want to be settled for decades?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because it's something that's really important to me. It's been a part of my life for 4 decades. And when I first came out, I feel like I was just a baby, and and the
you're only 45.
And the yeah. What I love about the whole process of having come out to Nebraska and like have that as part of my life is that I sort of, in a way, I feel like as an adult I grew up with that as kind of a cornerstone for me, the community and my friends out there. And when I was traveling around, and I lived in New York for many years, but I wasn't really staying in New York that much. So the place that I would sort of be regularly was in Nebraska. And I think I was so happy that people accepted me. And here's this guy coming in from New York. It's like, and I love all the people that I've met and the friends that I've made there. So it's my favorite community to play for, because I have such support, and I really feel like I'm communicating in a like a historic way. Like it's part of me that's been doing it for so long that I feel like there's that connection is always there with the audiences and the people that I met. So it's a huge thing. One of the biggest things was that when I was going through again sort of tumultuous times, and my life and things were not like, I didn't know quite what was happening, and I don't know what relationships were going on and all that. When I got back to Nebraska, it was always like I centered, and I could feel like I was back to a place where it was like therapy for me in a way. So it's always been that for me, and I love it. I just love. I can't imagine my life without Nebraska.
So in addition to, I imagine, like right at the start of the career, it's probably not the easiest thing in the world to be like, I want to do music for a living. And then also coming to Nebraska and hoping that small town will accept a big city guy.
Right.
What's another moment in your career that you highlight as being like a moment where you needed courage, a moment where you needed something to push you through to the next thing that was going to happen?
Oh, I think it's all the time. Like it's always like, it's just life that, I've always made in my life, I set goals. Like I'm a very goal oriented person. So early in my career, I made charts of what my 1-year goal was, what my 5-year goal was, what my 10-year, even my month long goal. And what I always found, and I found this to be interesting, was that if I would always review, and I could always change my goals if I decided, a year into it that I thought I was going to do something different. It turned out that most of the goals that I set for myself actually came about, but they all came about in completely different ways than I expected. So it's like, I think there's something about putting things out there in the universe that gets things started. And then the universe starts to do, but you have to have the ideas, and you have to put the work in to make it happen. But there's so many varying factors that it's not going to be what you imagine it to be. I think I think that's probably true for everybody. But for me, I've been really fortunate in that I kind of put those things out there, and then they start to happen. So I feel like that's kind of the sort of the pushing through, is that there's always. I always feel like I have to have something that I'm trying to attain, that I'm trying to achieve. So, and then along the road, which is the beautiful thing for me, is that I spent so much time in my life working to try to play the violin and to make it sound like what I want it to sound like. And I just love playing it for people so that I can actually express myself, that I have this, I put all this time into it, and then I can actually communicate with people with this thing that was so difficult. And now it's still difficult, but now I can do it. and I can play it, and I just love that, and I don't ever want to stop.
And so you won't.
Right.
Making sure that we touch on the Beethoven before we wrap.
Oh, there's another composer on the. Oh.
Yeah, there's another person.
Oh, this guy.
Yeah.
Next time I'm going to have my Elena poster up. It's going to have Elena heads all over it.
Oh my God.
9 of them in a square. Let's talk about Eroica. Let's talk about how this piece fits in with the broader theme of, like, inspiration, of courage. But I also kind of want to talk about the history, because I feel like the Symphony No. 3 is kind of like the opposite of this Violin Concerto No. 3, in that, like, the Violin Concerto No. 3 is like an appreciation piece. So, thinking about Anton, thinking about this great performer, whereas Beethoven's is like, starts that way in the composing process and then becomes I want this person gone type of thing, if that makes sense. Well, for Napoleon, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's so many stories about the Eroica, and historically, it could be considered perhaps one of the most important turning points in the classical period that begins to knock down the traditions and conventions into the going into the Romantic period. And Beethoven, I always love to think, I wish I were around at the time that he was actually doing that. That's why I find it so special to be able to do the music of Elena Ruhr, because she's alive and well and creating the magic that I can touch, I can ask about, I can have questions answered, and feeling kind of a comfort there. Beethoven, in his day, was, I think, somewhat feared and misunderstood, and this symphony is full of those examples, like the end of the development of the first movement, when the horn comes in with the original theme, the dee da 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 da, and everybody thought it was a mistake. And in fact, Ferdinand Ries, his publisher or assistant, kind of, at the time when Beethoven did his first reading of the thing, apparently Ries leaned over to Beethoven and said, "The damn hornist, can't he count?" And Beethoven was furious with that, and actually didn't forgive Ries for, I think for several years or something like that, But Beethoven did dedicate this to Napoleon, because he felt that Napoleon was a great man who was freeing up and doing the things that Beethoven believed in a very kind of liberal and open way, with oppression of people. So he had great disdain for those who were dictators, etc. And when Napoleon crowned himself emperor, Beethoven was so furious that he went back to the manuscript, and they say he erased. Actually, I guess it was with the quill of his pen, started to scratch out, and you can see that he actually just tore the paper, so you can't see Napoleon's name anymore. I mean, that was the end of it. The symphony would always exist and be the great symphony that it is, regardless of how he entitled it or how he dedicated it. And in a way, I think it's fascinating and interesting that was the kind of the genesis of the symphony. So there is that whole idea of courage and inspiration, and that's why I think the title of the program makes sense, much in the same way that Elena did with her piece, and with Anton being able to actually interpret that part of it, and which he's going to lead, of course, in the Beethoven Symphony as well. That nice little symphony that's, I don't know, 40, 50, or 3 days long. It was one of the longest symphonies ever. It is the longest symphony ever written up to that point, and has been considered one of the greatest symphonies of all. So, I mean, there's so much to talk about in that, but it's a typical 4-movement symphony. Very unusual. And the one thing that I'd like to just kind of point out is that we like to honor, of course, always, whether the composer is living or dead, or I should say living or no longer with us, to honor what the intent of his or her intentions were in writing that music. And one of the big contentions that happened early in the mid 20th century were the tempo markings of Beethoven, and perhaps how unplayable they were, and annoying to the players. And that's historical also, because as Beethoven was very much a neoclassicist. And in fact, I always love to ask the question of anybody, do you know who was Beethoven's favorite composer? Most people are surprised to learn that it's George Friedrich Handel. And you have to approach Beethoven from before his era, even though he broke into a new era that succeeded him. But we do like to try to honor the idea of what Beethoven had in his mind with his crazy metronome markings. And it changes the whole concept of an approach to the way you would play it and interpret it, because it's much more classical than it is the larger romantic orchestras as they got bigger, and the bigger that orchestras got, the slower the tempi became. That happened with the music of Bach, et cetera, et cetera. It's historical, but there's a turnaround now, and I think that what we do with our Lincoln Symphony Orchestra is quite phenomenal. I love it. I have to again ditto everything that Anton said about why Lincoln is so special. I feel the exact same way, and that's partly why we're such a great team too, because we love it. We absolutely adore it.
Well, I certainly feel inspired to hear some great music. This chat about the concert Inspiration and Hope, starting at 7:30 p.m. on Saturday, May 2nd at the Leeds Center for Performing Arts. Ed, Anton, Elena, thank you so much for the conversation. It was delightful, and I hope you all have a fantastic show.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.